Okay, so this is page 3 of the pink packet, and this is notes. The packet itself doesn't have any room for notes, so we made an extra little paper here that we can use for notes. All right, the first part of it is a warm-up, just to remind you of what we did yesterday, getting the axis of symmetry for an equation. So first thing you want to do is write down what is the formula for the axis of symmetry. Very important to memorize this. It's a simple formula. X equals negative b over 2 times a. And that means where is the middle part of that parabola? So parabolas look like this, and what we want to know is where is the exact middle of it. That is the information that we are given right there. Where is the exact middle, and every parabola has that spot that is exactly in the middle. That is the axis of symmetry. So that is on an x value. It would be, what is the x value for that? Okay, so here we say a equals the number, the coefficient in front of a on this one is -1, and b equals, there's no b value there. The b has to be, remember, this is based on y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So the b value is the one that's in front of the x to the first. A is what's in front of the x squared. The b is what's in front of x to the first. Well, if you look at this, there is no b. So b is 0, and c is 2. Even though we don't use c in this equation, we are still going to get used to using it, to figuring out what it is, because the next equations we will be using it. Okay, so then I just plug it in. The axis of symmetry, A of s, x equals, and then b was 0. 0 times 2 times -1. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. So our axis of symmetry, A of s, is x equals 0. And that's our answer on that one. Now in the second one, what's the vertex? Okay, in order to get the vertex of any equation, first we get the axis of symmetry. So we first have to figure out, we're using that same formula, different numbers. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals -1. So now we plug it in. Our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -2. I replace the b, looking at the formula, I replace the b with the 2. So -2 divided by 2, which is part of the formula, times a, which is 1. It's going to come to -2 over 2, which is going to be -1. Okay, a vertex is an x and a y value. The axis of symmetry is the x. So that goes there. Now I'm going to take that value and I'm going to plug it into this equation, and I'm going to get the y. So y equals, this is going to be what goes here, y equals, and I'm going to take my -1 and put it wherever I see an x. So -1 squared plus 2 times -1 minus 1. -1 times -1 is just 1. So y equals 1 minus 2. 2 times -1 is -2 minus 1. Y equals -2. We can look at that like Cross that out and cross that out. 1 minus 1. What are we left with? The negative 2. Okay, so now we take that and we put it into the other spot. Oops, there. And there's our vertex. Negative 1, negative 2. Okay, now let's take a look at this next word problem. This is very real. We use these, we do have rockets, and they do go up into the air. And they might not be rockets that go up into space. We also consider things like firecrackers, things like that. They shoot up from the ground, they come up, they go back down. When we kick a ball, soccer, it goes up, it comes back down. So this is the formula for anything that would start down, come up, and go back down. That's a parabola. So the formula that we use for the maximum height, to get the maximum height of a rocket fired straight up, if the height in feet is described by, okay, so if the height in feet is described by h for height equals negative 16 t, and that should be t to the second, not t times 2. Bit of a typo there that I did not notice. And we're going to make that squared. So our height equals negative 16 t squared plus 64t plus 1. All right, so again, the hint, get the vertex. So that maximum height means it's coming up, it's reaching a certain height, and then it's going back down. What is that? The vertex. So we're just getting the vertex. All right, so first thing, axis of symmetry. A equals negative 16, B equals 64, and C equals 1. So for that is going to be x equals, B is 64, so negative, let's do that in another color so you can see it, negative 64 divided by 2 times negative 16. And that's going to come to negative 64 divided by negative 32, which is going to come to positive 2. Now remember, a vertex has an x and a y. So that goes there. Now we need to get the y. So we go back and we look at our equation. H equals negative 16t squared plus 64t plus 1. And wherever we see a t, we're going to put in 2. So height equals negative 16 times 2 squared plus 64 times 2 plus 1. So height equals 2 squared negative 16 times 4. We square that first, then we're going to multiply it by the 16. Plus 64 times 2 is 128 plus 1. Height equals negative 16 times 4 is 64 plus 128 plus 1. And that is going to come to 65, which goes there. And that's it. That's all we do. So don't freak out when you see these word problems. There's always a simple way to do them. Okay, so that's a bit of a review for yesterday's work, which would have been last year's work in December. And then I'm going to do another video to explain what you're doing tonight.